Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we'll profile musical performer Carrie Noble of Minneapolis. But first, joining me now is our guest, Barry Prentice. Barry Prentice is the president of Isopolar and professor at the University of Manitoba. Barry, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
As we get started, tell the folks a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I've been a professor of transport economics at the University of Manitoba for about 27 years now. And I also have a specialization in agriculture, which is interesting to this region, and certainly very interested in the current developments that are going on with transportation, economic development, logistics, and so on.
Well, and you know, you founded a company or an organization called Isopolar.
Yeah.
What is Isopolar?
Well, it really stems from research that began about 14 years ago, where I was observing our problems of transportation in the north and climate change, and came to the realization that if the ice roads were going to start having shorter and shorter seasons as climate change progressed, we'd eventually get to the point where we wouldn't have ice roads at all, and then what were we going to do? And looking around at alternatives, one of those was the airships, lighter than air vehicles, or blimps, or airships as people call them. And we decided to have a conference at that time called the Airships to the Arctic, to look at this. We had several conferences, and out of those conferences in the academic research, we found the need to have an agency or an institute, really a not-for-profit, that would be a clearinghouse for information. So anybody in the world wanted to find out about airships or find out about what we were doing or the problems we had in the north would have a place to go. So we established Isopolar at that time, and we have since held about 4 conferences of the airships of the Arctic, including some that have been jointly with American folks up in Alaska.
Well, now, is Isopolar, is it funded? Is it an organization? Yeah, tell me a
No,
little
it's
bit more.
only a membership-based organization. The airship companies, some of them have given us a little bit of help here and there, but it's basically just survives on what it can do itself.
Well, you know, you talked about, I guess, transportation. Is that what got you involved with airships? And again, for our viewers out there, we're talking about the blimps.
That's right.
For the most part. Yeah.
It's the same technology as you see at the football game, except, of course, we want to have really big ones because we want to actually carry freight to the north. And these airships in the past, I mean, they were very big and very successful. It's remarkable in some ways that you consider what we did, or not we, but actually it was in Germany when they built the large Zeppelins that would carry cargoes across the oceans, and they would do about 70 or 80 tons. And in 75 years or so, we've never met what was done then. It's remarkable. I can't think of another technology where the high water mark was hit so long ago and we've never replicated it. But there's some reasons behind that, obviously. The point is, with an airship that would carry 50 or 100 tons, we could carry freight to anywhere in the north and to many remote areas, including places in Africa, or the Amazon, or places that need humanitarian logistics. So there's many opportunities and needs for this technology.
Well, you mentioned, I guess, when a lot of people out there think of airships, they think of the blimp, and outside of, as you said, sporting events where you get shots of, from the air, they think of the Hindenburg, probably. So how do you overcome that stigma?
Well, it's a hard one because, you know, people look at that and they say, well, it was a failed technology and that's why we didn't go pursue it, and therefore forget it. You know, and when we first started talking about it, you know, I was met with the muffled laughter at, you know, even the idea, and that itself was a big barrier because we called it the giggle factor, where people say, oh, they're talking about airships, you know, and then what are they going to talk about next, UFOs and so on. But slowly we've managed to bring people around to the realization that the airship, the Hindenburg, actually, from the German perspective, was a great success. To them, it was a pinnacle of the technology, and we, of course, have never matched it. But how did we get over it? Well, really with knowledge. The reasons that the airship or the Hindenburg had problems were about the building materials they used and the engineering. They didn't have any strain gauges. They didn't know what the stresses really were. The flammability was a big problem with the envelope and also the hydrogen they were using. There were problems of weather forecasting. They had no idea where the thunderstorms were. And of course, control on the ground was a big problem, so they had all the guys holding ropes. None of those problems exist today. Airships, the modern airships, can land and take off without people on the ground. We certainly know how to design it. And in fact, even one of those issues is static electricity. We can now manage static electricity, so that is not a safety issue as it once was. So I guess it's really a case of trying to tell people that we're not living 75 years ago. At that time as well, other things weren't safe. Cars weren't safe. Airplanes certainly weren't safe. A lot of things had problems, but we've kind of forgotten that because technology's moved forward in most of these other fields. And it has moved forward with the airships too, because you don't hear about any airship accidents occurring today, and they're still out there. But the general sense of people is that, well, the Hindenburg is where it stopped. Well, no, it didn't. It carried on, and we have modern airships available to us today.
Okay. Well, of course, I understand you recently attended a conference and a workshop. I believe it's called the Second Cargo Airships for Northern Operations.
Yeah, big title. Okay. That was held in Anchorage, Alaska in August. And the people in Alaska are really interested in the airships because they've got very similar problems that we have in northern Canada, which is permafrost to get across. It's hard to build roads, and in some cases the melting is occurring. We have difficult terrain and weather generally, thin markets, remote locations. And how do you serve these areas? And also, how do you bring forward economic development like mining operations without destroying the very delicate area that you're working in? So they're very interested in the airships as a solution to their own problems.
Well, then why aren't the skies full of airships then, if it's such a good idea in your opinion?
Well, you know, it's a historic accident, I suppose, of the Hindenburg on the one side that gave the idea a bad mark, but that really isn't the cause. People identify that because it happened at the same time. It was really the Second World War. During the Second World War, the combined forces built roughly 500,000 airplanes. And that's the Germans and the Japanese and the Americans and British and everybody all together. Today, flying, we maybe have 60,000 airliners. So you can see how many were built. Well, we went from airplanes that weren't safe to cross oceans to 4-engine high-altitude bombers and jet engines, all paid for by public funds. And then after the war, we had the Cold War. And then we were pushing for higher and faster airplanes, and all that technology eventually led to the Concorde. Well, no private company would ever have built the Concorde, but because the technology was all paid for by public funds, well, they could use that to build a civilian aircraft. The airships didn't get that funding, and as a result of that, when the war ended, well, fuel was cheap, nobody cared about carbon emissions, every place they wanted to go there were airports, and there were trained air pilots and so on, so why build airships? And people have looked at this over the last 70 years from time to time, but there was never a compelling case to build a cargo airship, or at least an airship. Most of them were looked at as passengers. Our purpose now is for cargo, and it's to get places where we can't get, and it's to use it with an environmentally acceptable way.
Well, you sort of, my next question was, yeah, what would it be used for potentially, and carry cargo, but can you talk some, I know we talked a few days ago about the kinds of cargo and maybe the amounts of cargo.
Yeah, well, I mean, the airships are going to be big. 50 tons will probably be a small airship in the future. But a 50 to 150 ton lift depends on the purpose. For a mining company, it would be able to carry in the mining balls and fuel to run the mine and bring out concentrates. It'd be like a conveyor belt, just going back and forth to the first railhead or road. For other places, remote communities, bring in bulky things. One of the great advantages is to bring in things like roof truss and even insulation, things that are bulky and light. But it's not just remote areas. There's a purpose even here in North Dakota. You have a company making wind turbine blades. Well, they're very hard to get down the roads, and especially if they get over 100 feet in length. But they're much more productive if they're 150 feet long. So an airship could pick those up at the factory, lift them out to the site of the wind turbine, and actually put them into place. So it may have some revolutionary benefits for technology that's here in the south, not just in remote areas.
Well, interesting then. You talked about some of the advances in airship design and safety, but can we expand on that? I mean, a little bit, because
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, technology is changing in a lot of ways, but as you said,
Well, there's several ideas and designs. One of those is to have what they call a hybrid, which is actually heavier than air and shaped more like two airships side by side with a cover over it. And it gets lift by forward movement. So it's actually kind of a combination airplane and airship. Another design is one that is made completely out of aluminum. And we've only seen a few metal airships in the past, partly because it was quite expensive when they were doing this before. Now, aluminum is actually an inexpensive building material, and with a helium compression system for buoyancy. There's another one that's kind of a combination of those two, a rigid shell with a compression system for helium. So there's many designs being tried out, and right now we don't know the winner. What we do know is that we're going to see something big in the sky and before very long.
Well, then you also say, why are we at a tipping point right now in airship technology?
Well, tipping points, typically you need two or three things happening at once. It's not just one thing. In our case, we do have this problem of climate change. We've got a need that's really visible, and we have to do something. We also have a desire to have lower carbon emission vehicles. Well, the airship literally could be fueled with hydrogen. There's no reason you have to have a little storage tank. You can have a very big storage tank because it's a big machine. It also is less expensive. You don't have to build infrastructure, roads, and you can get to difficult places. So the need is there. But on top of that, the technology is now here. We can do these sorts of things now that we couldn't do before. So you sort of combine the end users are ready, the technology is ready, and now is the time for this to move forward. And it's just a matter of everybody's kind of waiting for the first success to lower the risk, and then I think we'll see many more coming in.
So who are the leading airship companies in the world?
A couple of them are here in the U.S. There's one called Arrows in California, which people haven't probably heard of, but it's been around for quite a while. And then there's big companies like Lockheed Martin that have an airship. There's a couple in the U.K. which are leaders, HAV, which is combined up with Northrop Grumman on a military project. And of course, the Zeppelin company is still existing in Germany. And there's others. The Russians have an airship company, and there's even a couple in China and other places. So it's a worldwide competition.
What about military use for airship developments? Is there any discussions at that level?
There is. In fact, this is one of the really encouraging signs, because the military is what really brought forward the airplanes, and a lot of times it's been military investment that has moved technology forward. In the case of the airships, the U.S. has spent about $1 billion in the last 2 years on airships. They have 3 projects. One of those has already seen the airship flying, and this is the Northrop Grumman HAV airship. It's designed for a high-altitude surveillance, an unblinking eye that'll be able to sit over a place like Afghanistan and watch people down below to make sure there's no bombs being planted in the roads. The Department of Defense has another one with Arrows, which I mentioned earlier, to do a cargo demonstrator. Again, for the military to get logistics into these difficult places in a timely fashion without your convoys being attacked has been a difficult issue. So the airships may hold promise there. And there was a third one, which I think has been closed now. But these technologies are being pioneered and brought forward, so the military plays a very important role.
So how would a new generation of cargo-carrying airships change the world?
Oh man, I think there are things that we can't hardly even think about. It'd be wonderful for Manitoba and North Dakota and our region. We are a long way from tidewater, and most international cargo moves by water. But if you could have airships that would be able to fly right to the center of the continent and deliver goods for distribution here or pickup here, it would certainly cut our costs and bring us closer to certain markets. For that matter, we always complain that we end up eating tomatoes that look like tomatoes but taste like cardboard. Well, with an airship, you might be able to bring those tomatoes straight up from Colombia or Venezuela or another country in the south right to here, and we could send back things that we produce, whether they be livestock products or whatever. So two-way trade with perishables could be much better with an airship. And of course, manufacturing big bulky things. Those wind turbine blades could go all over the world from here.
Yeah. Understand you have an airship startup company?
We have decided to get involved in developing an airship to prove it out for cold weather operations. Most airships have been built for southern climates. Right now you'll find airships huddling in Florida and California. But we need airships that'll look after 30, 40 below and operate year-round. So we've actually have built a small airship as a research platform, and we have a small air dock, which is an airship hangar in Winnipeg, which we are using to develop this technology and prove it out, as well as invite others to come.
Well, if people want to get more information or want to get involved, where's the best place to go? What can they do?
Well, our website, which is isopolar.ca, is a good place to go. We have some information there and leads and a few articles. Certainly contact us through the website. We'd be happy to help people with anything like that. Welcome them to come up to Winnipeg to see our airship if they're interested in that as well. We'll be flying certainly next summer. People will be able to see it. So, and we'd love to have our friends from North Dakota to come up. Maybe we'll come down here. Well, I always come to the Blues Festival here, Maybe we'll bring the airship to the Blues Festival someday.
That would be interesting to see.
It would be.
Well, Barry, we're out of time, but thanks so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Stay tuned for more. Carrie Noble chose to live in Minneapolis because of its strong artistic and musical community. After years of recording and touring, she's especially proud of the holiday album that reflects her own personal style. Carrie performed a few of those original songs here in our studio.
Looking at a girl like me, you think you know what to do. Buy me a diamond ring, or fly me to the moon. No, oh well, let me think of how to say what I want to say to you. I don't want to hurt you, babe, but you don't have a clue. Let me tell you that every girl's idea of a perfect holiday, it doesn't revolve around the size of what you pay. Oh, I'll give you a little peek at my Christmas list, and then you'll see it's really easy. Give me your time, give me your love, cut me some slack when I've been wrong. Write me a letter or sing me a song, and give me your love. And just make me laugh when I've been crying. You can't mess up long as you're trying to sum it up. Give me your love. Well, looking at a boy like you, it can't be easy. I bet they all get in line, trying to catch your eye. Whoa, oh, well, that's why I cannot believe you're standing outside my door. You're bringing me everything you bought me at the store. Let me tell you that every girl's idea of a perfect holiday, it doesn't revolve around the size of what you pay. Oh, I'll give you a little peek at my Christmas list, and then you'll see it's really easy. Give me your time, give me your love, cut me some slack when I've been wrong. Write me a letter or sing me a song, and give me your love. And just make me laugh when I've been crying. You can't mess up long as you're trying to sum it up. Give me your love. Well, life is full of endless possibilities. All I want for Christmas is for you to understand just make me laugh when I've been crying. You can't mess up long as you're trying to sum it up. Give me your love to sum it up. Give me your love. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, I can't wait to get home and see my family and sing songs and eat a lot and sleep a lot and, you know, just spend time. It's my favorite thing about the holidays, just being able to spend time with the people that you love. You know, there are all of these pressures in terms of how much money we spend and what if we don't have enough money, and I know a lot of people end up feeling like they can't give the people that they love the things as much as they would like to give because they don't have enough money. And so this song, Giving You My Love, I wrote as a love song to your partner, to the person you're with, basically saying, look, we don't have a lot of stuff, we don't have a lot of money, but the reality is we have each other, and that is a bigger, better, more beautiful gift than I could ever want, and I can give you my love. Money will come and go, already something we both know. Bracing ourselves against the cold is nothing new. Every now and again, inevitably something always ends, but I can make do and supplement as long as I've got you. I can't buy a bunch of presents, we don't have a fancy tree, but I've got everything that matters standing right in front of me. You can't buy me gold and silver, if you ask me, we've got enough. Baby, on this Christmas morning, I'm giving you my love. Doesn't it always seem to be everyone's chasing make-believe, but being with you it's hard to see, wanting anything more. I can't buy a bunch of presents, we don't have a fancy tree, but I've got everything that matters standing right in front of me. You can't buy me gold and silver, if you ask me, we've got enough. Baby, on this Christmas morning, oh, I want the smile on your face as you're waking up, the sight of you filling my coffee cup, the touch of your hand to remind me I'm loved. Considering every high and low, I'm loving you more than ever before, settling down and growing old is all I need. I can't buy a bunch of presents, we don't have a fancy tree, but I've got everything that matters standing right in front of me. You can't buy me gold and silver, giving you my love. Oh, giving you my love. Oh.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Pulse for this week. And as always, thanks for watching.
Funding for Minnesota Legacy programs are provided by a grant from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008, and by the members of Prairie Public.